My name is Hadyn Smith, CEO of Crime Stoppers New Zealand. I'd like to welcome Sharon Hanlon, beaming in from Adelaide, South Australia, for this September edition of Crime Stoppers New Zealand's newsletter, Trust. Sharon is the President of Crime Stoppers International, Deputy Chair of Crime Stoppers Australia, and Chairman of Crime Stoppers South Australia. Thanks for joining us, Sharon.
Thank you, Hadyn. I appreciate the opportunity.
Look, first up, you appear immersed in Crime Stoppers locally, nationally, and internationally. What is it that draws you to the Crime Stoppers world environment?
It's a very good question. I am fully immersed, as you say. I was actually appointed to my local Crime Stopper program here in South Australia in late 2011, actually after being approached to consider joining the board. And I guess that over the intervening years, I've really had the privilege of then being nominated up to Crime Stoppers Australia's national board, and as a result of that, then up to the international board. I was elected president of Crime Stoppers International at our conference in The Hague in late 2018. And I have to say, the last 3.5 years have been incredibly challenging, but they've also been incredibly rewarding. And I think you will know all Crime Stopper entities, we operate as not-for-profits or charities run by volunteer boards of directors. So really, every Crime Stopper director is making a direct contribution, to an improved social fabric of their community, I feel. They're giving back, that's often a term that we hear. Crime Stoppers, for me personally, it's certainly an environment where I'm constantly learning, where I'm meeting like-minded people, often experts in their field, which is a privilege, and who also want to do everything possible when it comes to disrupting or deterring or halting transnational crime. And it's also an environment where I'm constantly drawing on, but also continuing to develop my personal and professional skills. So I'm certainly enriched as an individual for the experience of being involved with Crime Stoppers.
Well, were you involved in a governance sense at virtually every level possible? And I don't think I'm understating that. Based on that experience, what is the big difference between the focus at the national Australian level and the New Zealand level type thing and the international Crime Stoppers worldwide level?
Look, to be honest, there are probably more similarities than differences, when we talk about national and international focus. You've picked up on governance. Governance, washes across all of our programs, and that remains, I suppose, very strong and would be incredibly similar. I guess where CSI's work, we are certainly focused very much on, as I've mentioned, disrupting serious and organised crime networks that are transnational. So often they're operating in multiple countries or flowing across multiple countries. We're certainly about educating and encouraging those communities to share information they have about crime or suspected criminal activity. Again, that's consistent with any national program. We are in the business of developing and executing global anti-crime campaigns. So we are talking about what is something that we can share with our member network that we might see a concerted effort, internationally at one point in time that everybody is supportive of. And then we're also involved very much in developing capacity building and advocacy initiatives. So you might appreciate that many of the countries that we go into, they're either, I guess, lower socioeconomic. They may have dubious law enforcement in terms of, the rigor around their law enforcement agencies. So capacity building then links back into, well, how can we deliver educational or awareness raising initiatives, to whether that's law enforcement or the government agencies involved or indeed businesses and the media.
Well, look, just taking that theme a little bit further, Crime Stoppers kicked off in 1976 in the US.
Yes. Yeah.
And its stated mission is to mobilise the world to provide information on crime anonymously. How's that mobilisation go?
It's a big mission, isn't it? You're right. Crime Stoppers began in 76 in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Crime Stoppers International actually was formed 2 years later in 1978. And I think that was probably on the back of a very rapidly burgeoning number of programs, particularly across the US at that time. And, that was necessary to ensure that those programs were going to meet minimum standards that Crime Stoppers wanted to see any program ensure that they aspired to. Today, our membership comprises more than 800 accredited programs around the world. We're structured into 7 quite distinct regions. So the US, our home base originally, Canada, Europe, Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and the Southeast Asia, and the Pacific, and again, the Caribbean and Latin America is a region. I think, the Caribbean, Latin America area is especially active in mentoring and bringing on board new countries in its region. Certainly in recent years, we've seen programs established in Argentina and Guatemala and Paraguay. And again, reflecting on my comments just a moment ago, I think it's those poorer countries, which are often the target of crime gangs, that their citizens are more easily exploited and their law enforcement is often open to manipulation. So some of those countries are, it's incredibly important for Crime Stoppers to be seen to be active there and to try and bring them on board. Where there is no Crime Stopper program in a given country, citizens can always report direct to Crime Stoppers International on our online reporting platform, and then we forward that information to our law enforcement partners, either direct or via Interpol, who we have a cooperation agreement in place with.
So you're filling quite a few gaps. Look, I see in June you joined Interpol in support of an annual cybercrime awareness campaign. Now, cybercrime seems to be the big growth area, if there is
Absolutely.
one, throughout the world. How successful was that campaign?
You're right. Cybercrime is a massive growth area for criminal networks, and particularly when we saw COVID shut down many other areas of operation for serious and organised crime gangs globally, there was definitely an intensification of online activity that was very evident very quickly. Look, since we held our annual conference in Singapore back in 2019, and we have directly connected then with Interpol's base there in Singapore, which is their cyber base. We've since that time supported each of their global, cybercrime awareness campaigns. You've picked up on the one in June, but business email compromise or fraud, financial scams, and particularly around romance scams, and how to, protect yourself from digital exploitation are all activities where we've partnered with Interpol to assist them. Very happy to do so by sharing their messages and encouraging citizens to take action and report back through Crime Stoppers. In terms of success of that, Hadyn, I guess that there's always a very clear spike in reporting to Crime Stoppers on the back of us going out and promoting any campaign. And certainly the metrics that we report back to Interpol are very well received by them.
Well, that's great to hear, because we're looking at doing something ourselves. One of the things that I suppose you do more than just facilitate anonymous reporting, which I'm pleased to see. I see you've developed and released a new and free online course targeting illicit trade, including modern slavery, human trafficking, looting, and trading in cultural artifacts, wildlife, crime, corruption, and even terrorism. How has that course been going? Because that sounds like it's a one-stop shop for everything.
Well, we are trying to segment them into various modules, so it's not a one-stop course. But yes, look, increasing any community's awareness for a particular crime, or as I've said, building capacity within a country's law enforcement agencies, educating media outlets and businesses in respect to a particular crime is a key part of our mandate as we see it. We have an online learning hub that anybody is, more than freely able to go and access. That's being slowly built out. We do see it ultimately housing a whole range of self-paced modules and courses, but along with some fact sheets and some checklists and useful resource lists for anyone that wants to perhaps, either expand or refresh their understanding for particular transnational crime areas, or somebody who's just generally interested in the topic and wants to learn a little more. Most of them, we see those being made available free of charge. Others will be offered, as more in-depth, and they are going to be delivered by subject matter experts who we have relationships with. They will be provided at a discounted rate, but someone who wants to complete one of those will come out with a formal qualification at the end of the day. So, yeah, look, we are more than anonymous reporting. I think our online learning is going to be a really important aspect. And one of the other things that I might mention here, Hadyn, is we work directly with private sector often, to tackle particular areas of crime. And one of the things we're very proud of that we developed and launched last year was a mobile app. Now, that was developed specifically for the International Air Transport Association, which is has it's headquartered in Canada, but it has 63 member airlines. Now, that was focused on wildlife trafficking. So everybody on the staff of those airlines now, whether they're baggage handlers or check-in personnel or even in-air crew members, have this app on their digital devices. And if they have got concerns about, potential wildlife crime being trafficked, they're able to report direct, via the app, and Crime Stoppers manages that on IATA's behalf now.
That sounds pretty impressive. Look, I'll just steer you away slightly. Crime Stoppers Aotearoa New Zealand is it's independent of the authorities and allows people to speak up safely. And we're especially effective where dark crime is involved, where it's organised crime, gangs, etc. And that's a scary side of crime.
Yes.
Why people choose to connect with Crime Stoppers because of those involvements. However, and there are questions coming, are there different driving factors for people to speak up around the world? Are all our needs the same, or each region a little different? You probably touched on that slightly just before.
Yeah, look, and I think you touched on in your preface comments there, the importance of, I guess, almost being able to build some trust or make a connection with that criminal fringe, because it's often from there that we get our most important leads, to pass on to law enforcement. Which I think goes to the nub of Crime Stoppers. Upholding a tipster's anonymity definitely sets us apart from any other reporting channel that's out there. Whether that be I want to report direct to law enforcement or a particular government agency that has a regulatory responsibility, or it's a private sector organisation who's offering a confidential reporting platform. Crime Stoppers holds, I guess, at the ultimate level, it's ability to keep someone's details anonymous. So while the same or similar criminal issues, transverse every country of the globe, I would say there does need to be consideration to the approach that's taken. In that respect, I wouldn't say there's a one size fits all. And I think probably from New Zealand's perspective, you would know that already. Language and imagery, I think, is incredibly important. Being able to communicate in a voice or a tone that is mindful, of a community, in order to establish a connection with them, so that they do have that trust to share what they know. But I also think that is one of the greatest strengths that Crime Stoppers International is able to offer its members, because we learn so much from one another through sharing our experiences, sharing our research, sharing results and outcomes from campaigns and initiatives that, might be directed at very specific cohorts. So, I would summarize by saying there's not a one size fits all, but I think we are incredibly good at what we do in terms of targeting specific communities.
Well, look, I certainly agree with the insights can be shared across borders, and we certainly shared a few things from Australia over the years, and we thank you for that. Well, look, thanks for your insights into Crime Stoppers International family, Sharon, and for giving us your time today. I don't know about viewers, but this has been really informative and insightful for me. So thanks for coming on.
As I said at the outset, I very much appreciate the opportunity, and it's great to have talked to you today. Thank you.